This is the new Kia Carnival and it's just been launched at 63.9 lakh rupees. That's a lot of money, but as it turns out, there's a whole lot of car too. So let's get straight to it. This is the 4th generation model replacing the previous 3rd gen car, and it's the latest facelifted version too, and not the same as the MPV that was showcased at the 2023 Auto Expo as the KA4. As is pretty plain to see, this car is completely new, has nothing in common with the old Carnival, and it's grown bigger in every dimension. It's broader, it's longer, it's taller, the wheelbase is longer too. And the styling, it's gone a more aggressive, more towards the SUV side of things. And you can see, of course, right here in the front, it's got a massively wide grille. The Kia Tiger Nose little indent there, of course, here. The headlights, they are now the ice cube headlights that you have, and projector lamps over there, and down below are, of course, you've got this little silver finished skid plate. Now at the side you can really see and appreciate the length of the Carnival, and this horizontally oriented style and all of the details really gives it that sort of length and limousine like look, as Kia calls it. They call this the Limousine Plus variant. I also particularly like this little indent here because it goes all across the car and nicely into the channel that you need for the sliding door. And there are other neat details around the car too. The C-pillar has a very nice textured silver finish. The footboard is finished in silver, and the 18-inch alloys have neat, sharp and angular cuts. Now at the rear, as you can see, the tail lights, they mimic the shape of the front as well, and including the signatures of the DRL in here, the styling elements. It looks really nice and neat and clean. And the number plate is housed in a recess that stretches neatly across the width. And rounding off the details, there's a spoiler atop and a silver finished skid plate below. Since we're here at the back, let's take a look inside the boot. The tailgate is powered, and boot space, that's pretty phenomenal because with all 3 rows up, and if you see here, you've got 627 liters of boot space. That's thanks to this large recess down here below. What you can do also is fold this seat, the 3rd row, and what's nice is that it sort of sinks straight into that recess, and then you can expand it to a maximum of 2,900 liters. So clearly a lot of cargo volume.
और अगर आप इस वीडियो को हिंदी में देखना पसंद करोगे तो ऑटोकार इंडिया यूट्यूब चैनल पर आप इसको देख सकते हैं। उसका लिंक आपको नीचे मिल जाएगा।
Time now to get going because there's a lot new inside and under the hood too. So what's it like on the move? Let's begin with the engine. 2.2 liters diesel. That's what this Carnival has. Now that may sound familiar, that's because the old Carnival had the same setup too, but it's a different unit. The engine is new. The block is all aluminium. The previous one was a cast iron block. Kia have done that to reduce the weight and therefore, of course, improve performance, acceleration and efficiency. But you have to watch out for sound levels because it now misses out on the cast iron mass that helps dampen sound and vibrations. So what's this one like? Well, you can hear the engine, especially when you're standing outside. You do know it's a diesel, there's no getting away from that. But when you're inside here, it is quite hushed and silent. Steady state cruising is a silent affair, but it can get quite vocal. Where you can hear the engine is in the transient phases. So when you're at lower RPMs and you press down and you want to get going, the drone does come through. In terms of specs, the engine makes 193 horsepower and 441 Newton meters of torque. What does that feel like from behind the wheel? Well, if you put your foot down like this, there is a slight pause and then it begins to get going. Obviously, this is an MPV. It's not being set up for a very sporty drive. Although, speaking of which, you do have drive modes and you've got, of course, eco, normal, sport and auto. Auto, of course, adjusts according to your driving style. Sport mode, of course, improves acceleration, but there's still a small pause from the 8-speed auto before it gets going. In terms of efficiency, Kia says the government certified rating is 14.85 kilometers per litre, and in our brief drive, we got a respectable 10.9 kilometers per litre. Now out on the highways, you're going to have to overtake slow moving traffic. How does this one do? Well, it doesn't rocket past, trucks and cars, but put your foot down like this. It will drop a gear or two and you'll soon be by in a safe and sort of hassle-free manner. You also have paddle shifters here behind the wheel to drop a gear quickly in case you think the response isn't quick enough. The other change with the new Carnival is a switch from hydraulic to an electric assist power steering. The effort at low speeds, parking speeds, is fairly light and easy. In fact, it doesn't feel cumbersome. The only thing you'll have to watch out for, of course, is the big dimensions of the car. And at higher speeds and into slight corners like we are right now, it does weigh up, so it does give you a degree of confidence. Ride quality over broken surfaces and on slightly unpaved or badly paved village roads like the one we are on right now, well, it's good if you keep a low, steady pace and the bumps are small. The larger ones, though, you can feel them come through the cabin. Like that. At high speeds, body control is pretty good. In fact, the highway we're on does have a few slight undulations, but it's not causing the Carnival to lift or float, and body control at high speed straights is pretty good. Time now to take a look around the cabin, which of course is nothing like the previous car. The color mix of black and tan works very well and gives the cabin a nice and inviting atmosphere and looks premium. And there's just the right amount of chrome trim, though some would like the ambient lighting to be a little more elaborate. In terms of the displays, they're both quite legible. They're not very high resolution and super sharp, but absolutely clear to read and get your information. The IP panel here can be customized. You've got a digital display, what they call simple, and then you have circle, which is the traditional dials, and that's something I really like to see. The Carnival is also really well equipped. They have increased the price. In fact, it's gone up significantly from the earlier Carnival. So what they've done though is added a whole lot of features. So you've got a 3-zone climate control, you've got a not a dual pane, in fact they're just 2 sunroofs, one for the front here and one for the rear. You've got the Bose surround sound system, the HUD of course, and both rows, the front and the second row, have powered seats with heating and ventilation too. The other big feature addition is an ADAS suite. In fact, the Carnival has a whole host of all your ADAS features, including a stop and go function to the cruise controls. And this is the list of all the major equipment on the Carnival. In terms of comfort, so far I've been driving for a while, and the front seats, no complaints. They're very well shaped to my back, and I think in fact larger frames should find it comfy too, because there is some gap to the bolstering on both sides for my narrower frame. So I don't think someone with a broader frame should find this too tight or too snug. Now that's on the front row, of course, the comfort, but the Carnival, this one is really all about that second row, right? And we have the third row too. So let's switch to the back, and like I said, this is a whole lot of cars, so we've got a whole lot of people. So I've got Gavin and Saumil who've been sitting quietly there at the back. They are going to give you a report from the second and third row.
Hello and welcome to what is definitely the most important seat in the Kia Carnival. It's the second row. This was a car made for the chauffeur driven, and boy have they put in a lot of effort here. There are a few things that return from before and some things that are new. As before, this seat moves in ways that you never thought a seat could move. In fact, it's got way more adjustment than the seats up front. For one, it goes from left to right manually, and it slides back and forth manually as well. It takes a little bit more effort, but it's not as simple as just doing a bit of origami. There is a purpose to everything. In fact, the leftmost position is to aid ingress and egress, and also to let passengers for the third row slip between these two rows over here. That's how you access the third row. But if you want to get this seat's full sliding reclining potential, you have to tuck it into the inside with this lever here, because now you can recline it to its fullest. The reason being, there is a bit of an obstruction when you're all the way to the left, and that is now free once you're in the center. Yes, it moves you quite close to your co-passenger in the second row, but that's okay. And interestingly, the manual controls are on the left hand side and the powered controls are on the right hand side. Over here, it's a bit counterintuitive to lean down, but once you get the hang of it, it's okay. When the two seats are very close, yeah, they are quite hard to reach, but you can recline the seat quite a lot. You can even get a bit of height adjust and seat base angle, and there is a fold out ottoman. Now, before I get into the full movement of these seats, I want to tell you a bit about the creature comforts back here. This huge window lets in a lot of light, but you can shut that away with this sun blind. The thing about it is, even though it's so vast, there is a little sliver like a quarter glass that lets in some light right here onto your face, but all things considered, it does block out most of the light. The seats are heated and ventilated. There is a sunroof, a second sunroof for the back over here, and there is a third climate zone for the second and third rows. Now, the AC vents for the second row are only these two circular ones up here. You can direct them pretty easily, but a greater set of vents would have been appreciated. Moreover, the controls to operate the auto climate control, the third zone for the second and third rows, is all the way over there. I think this might have been a left-hand drive leftover, but it's a bit of a stretch to reach from this seat over here. That aside though, it's very comfy. You get enough cool air and you won't be disappointed with the cooling of this air conditioning unit. In the center here, where you might have expected more AC vents, you get just a 12-volt socket, which is a bit unusual. Your cup holders are up here. There's a slot down there to keep maybe your phone, and there's another phone slot over here. If you're wondering where the USB ports are, they're in the backs of these front seats on both the driver and the passenger side. Now, back to these seats again, because the amount of adjustment and movement is truly vast. Let's start by, if you want more space at the front, you can adjust the front passenger seat, a classic boss mode and one that truly belongs in a car like this. But it doesn't stop there. I am actually sat in a pretty medium position right now. I'm not all the way in the front and I'm not all the way at the back. And because this car is just so vast, you can adjust it to your liking to suit the third row as well. Now, Saumil is sat in the back and he'll show you how much space he has there in a moment. But I can slide this all the way forward. This is the frontmost position, and I still have plenty of knee room. And for its ultimate party trick, you can slide it all the way back, fold down the third row if you don't have anybody in there, and get a full, very relaxed, very reclined mode. For now though, I'm gonna go back into this medium position and let Saumil tell you what it's like in the third row.
Stepping into the Kia Carnival is really easy thanks to the wide opening sliding doors. One thing that you have to keep in mind is that these middle seats do not tumble forward, so you need to ensure that they are in their outermost position so that you have a wide enough corridor to enter smoothly. Once you're seated here, you'll notice that even for someone of my height, I'm 5 feet 9 inches tall, there's enough space, there's enough knee room in the middle setting, which Gavin is in right now, and there's decent enough of headroom as well. What's also nice is that the seat base is slightly angled, so even though you are in a knees up position, you still have some amount of thigh support. Also, the backrest can be reclined further for more comfort. Being a 7-seater means that the third row is designed to accommodate 3 passengers. However, the seat's narrow width means that this place is best for 2 adults and a third occupant will be a tight squeeze. In terms of amenities, you have rear AC vents out here. You have ample storage in terms of cup holders. You have 2 USB Type-C charging ports. And for this small quarter glass, you also have a sunshade.
That then is the new Kia Carnival, clearly a big step up over the previous car. There are bits that need addressing though, like the ride should have been plusher and the engine quieter. But beyond that, there's a lot to like. It looks a lot more modern and strikes the right balance between elegance and ruggedness. Inside, it's very well equipped and the cabin is very inviting, looks premium and comfy too. And the all-important second row has everything you'd want from a seat. The third row too is spacious and there's plenty of storage for an outstation holiday with all three rows occupied too. With the new Carnival then, there's clearly a whole lot of car that you get. Just be prepared though to shell out a whole lot of money too.